Hello and welcome back to my workbench. I decided I'm going to do a video from beginning to end, including all the pre-steps I do to make sure if I'm working on a radio that I actually want to continue with it. And that's by checking some of the components. Certain components in the radio, if they're bad, you have to make a decision if you want to really try and fix them or use it for a parts radio. So what I'm picking right now is a Philco 48250. That's from 1948. This one, its case is in good shape except the finish is gone. Now this happens when it gets cleaned too often with chemicals or sits out in the sun for too long. So this is probably going to be one I'm going to paint, more than likely. But let's see. The dial itself looks great. No problems there. Ooh, very sticky on and off switch. Very sticky. And let's see, but the dial itself is moving fine. So good. One of the things I hate more than anything in this hobby is having to restring dial cord. So let's take this off. Oh, I see a little rust on here. I wonder if that means it was wet at one point, got set in water. These are in good shape. There's only one container here one screw here holding it in. By the way, this is code 122. When I go online and look, I can see that this particular model, 48250, actually had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different versions, starting 121, 122, and 126. Then they had, oh actually I was wrong, 3 versions. It had an ivory version, which ended in I. Excuse me. So there are just 3, 121, 122, and 126. And this one is 122. It mentions it here. It looks like it was crossed out. Actually, let me just take this out. One of the things I never like about Philco is the antenna that kind of is glued in along the edge here, because it usually always comes apart. In this case, it's in good shape. So let me get rid of this out, lift it out, and good. So what I wanted to show you is down here, it says, it looked like 121, looks like somebody crossed it out and made that one a 2. If I look at the chassis, I can see code 122 here. So, looking at it, it's dirty, it's dusty, the cord is brittle, I can see down here. It's ripped, so the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this. I do have a strange habit of cutting off the plug on each one I have and saving it. I don't know why, but I have a whole bucket full of these. Some are probably useful, but things like these molded ones are not useful at all, but I'm going to keep it anyway. Let's check out the speaker. Speaker's pristine. Very nice. This is filthy, needs to be cleaned and dusty. What I'm going to do first is so I don't rip this, is disconnect these here. And there's a lot of give in it, so I could unsolder it, but in reality I'm just going to cut them for now. And I can fix that later. I mentioned the dial glass is good, but I don't know if this can pick it up. Let me see. There's a little bit of fraying down there, but the good part is that's not being displayed in the front. You can't see that from here, but maybe I'll need to do something to make sure it doesn't peel anymore. So I'll have to look at that. I'm going to get some cardboard and cover this up so I do not put my finger through it. So one thing I like about these radios, there's a lot of room inside the chassis and not too many parts. Let's see how many capacitors we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 capacitors and 1 electrolytic. This looks all original. Every single part here does say Philco. I wouldn't have been surprised if it was working, but because of the electric cord being frayed, and I wasn't going to take a chance on that. So what do? The first thing I like to do is determine what needs to be analyzed prior to moving forward with the restoration. I mentioned here this is so sticky. Wow, I've got to put the cover on it. I'm sorry, the knob on it just to turn it. Wow, I've actually never seen one this bad before. Really surprising. I'm not going to spray it now, but I'm going to leave it as is. And what I like to check with the switch, normally I check the volume switch, but because it's so tight, oh man, wow. I'm a little hesitant about doing anything with that right now. But what I also check are the different things like the oscillator and the coils. And I'm going to try and do is, as I'm testing, kind of put a picture-in-picture of what I'm looking at here, as well as what I'm looking at on the schematic. So we'll see how that works out. Let me get my multimeter ready. I forgot to put that out, and I'll be back in a moment. Okay, we're back. I have cover on my speaker so I do not put my fingers through it. And I'll try and do picture-in-picture of some of the things I'm going to test now as best as possible. Normally I work with it up here, but since that doesn't work out in the camera, I'm going to try and angle it a bit so it can be on camera. That looks like it's pretty good. Okay, I don't know if you can read the numbers here. Looks like you can. So the first thing I'm going to do is check the oscillator coil, which is over here. There's a diagram on the schematic that lets you know which pin is which, and when you go through the schematic itself, it'll let you know the point-to-point ohms expectation for that. So I'm just going to do number 1 and 2 right now, which is expecting 7 ohms. And I'm getting 7.98, which is good enough. It's working. The next one is 0.3 and 4, and expecting 2.5 ohms. And we're getting 3.1. Yeah, so that's fine. Working fine. Good. Now let's go to... Sorry about that. Sorry, I'm back. And as I said, I was going to check the IF transformers. And on the schematic, if you look at the picture, you can see that I have highlighted the different lines and the checkpoints for them and what they should be. The schematics of this first one should be 27.5, give or take. And if we go here, it's the blue, and this is the blue here. And it's the red. And I'm going to try and see a little more because I believe this is going to... Trying to put that out of the way so I can see a little more. There it is. And the red goes to here. It's supposed to be 27.5 as I mentioned, and I am getting, come on, 28.5, so that's good. Point that towards the camera more so you can see it. Good. Next one is the green and the white. And looking here, one green is going here. And the white is coming out, coming to this entry point. And that's coming out is 27.5. And it was supposed to be 26, so that's fine as well. Next one's a little trickier. It's hard to see here. This is the next level transformer. So looking at it, we see the blue and red go together. If I look here, the red comes here, and the blue, so hard to see with all these items in the way. Okay, where is that? You know what, I think the color's off, and that's why it looks like, it doesn't look like blue. The colors must have faded off a lot. Let me see what this comes out to. Yeah, and with that one almost looks like a turquoise green. But we're getting, that's not the right one. Let me try the other wire. Coming here. I should have done this off camera, but let me change my thing. I'm going to go to green and white now. That's good. That was supposed to be 21. It was actually a little high, but it's working. I'm fine with that. I'm just trying to figure out this blue one. And if this is the two that I'm talking about, if I trace it all the way through, that's not the one. Okay, where is this one going to? Wow. It could be going to here. That's not it. I have to really check out where it's coming from. It's so tight in there. There it is, 21.7, and it's supposed to be 21.5 on the schematic, so that's good. So it looks like we're good for those. For that, since we're here, as I mentioned, I'm not going to check the on-off switch and volume control because it's just too hard to turn right now until I'm able to figure that one out. Let's check the speakers now. So it looks like you should get a couple of ohms. If you're doing this, be very careful. You are not going to put your edge right through too deep into the speaker. Let me see here. Okay, there we go, there we go. And I'm getting 1 point. Come on. There we go, 1.5. All right, so this one looks like a good candidate for restoration. Next step, just back here. Is to do a recap. So as I said, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 originals and 1 electrolytic. If I'm looking at the schematic, it looks like a 3-part. I can't tell here yet if this is a 3. This is actually only a 2-part. That's interesting. Oh, I see. It's no, it's a 3-section electrolytic. Yet this one only has a 2, which makes me wonder if this is the right version of the schematic. So it should be a 30 MF, 25 MF, and a 20 MF. And as I can see here, let me take this out. Yeah, this is only a 20 and a 20. Not even close to what it says on the schematic. So if this is original, I'm going to have to verify if the number it says on here, which is 122, if it's actually right. Although, looking at the schematic, it said this is good for code 121, 122, and 126. So it'll be a challenge. Do I put what's in the radio? Or do I put what's on the schematic? And the fact that I didn't test the radio beforehand leaves a question in my mind. So I'll have to look at the schematic and figure out what I'm going to do with that. So I will start to do the... Okay, so what I found out was that the schematic I was using was the official Philco schematic. And when I actually looked at Sam's schematic, which I happen to have a copy of, that one had both of them. So if you look at the screen here, you can see there's 2 6As. One is a 2-piece, 20-20, and the other is a 3-piece, 30-25-20. So there's nothing wrong. I just had to read a different schematic. It should not make a difference in any of the operation of the radio. I'll have to go through other parts just to see, but my belief is it just kind of created something a little different for this particular model. Maybe it was part of a cost-saving measure with Philco, who knows. But I'll stick with what was in the radio, and then I will do a recap and show you the results of that next time. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your evening, afternoon. Bye-bye.